Welcome to Recalibration Nation, your mental wellness movement. Here we turn setbacks into comebacks. I'm McClellan, a mental wellness strategist and host of Recalibration Nation. So we're not just here to participate in self-care. We're here to train your brain, sharpen your resilience, and activate the best version of yourself. So what's our mission? Resilience and overdrive. So today, we're starting at the foundation of Recalibration Nation. That's the PEMA approach: perception, energy, momentum, and action. In the first episode, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy, and that's where it mentions meeting basic needs, discovering our purpose, and reaching fulfillment. So the pyramid tells us about what we need, but it doesn't tell us how to reach it. And that's where PEMA comes in. PEMA tells us how to climb the pyramid. So today, we're going to look at the first pillar, which is perception. Perception tends to be the lens that determines how we interpret life. So two people can have the same experience and have very different realities. For example, let's say that two people get into a car accident. And the first person says, "Oh, thank goodness no one was hurt," and they feel really good about the outcome. Whereas the second person, they say, "Oh no, my insurance is going to go up and I'm going to have to fix all of this damage." And then moving forward, when they're driving, they live in fear that they're going to get in another accident. So they both have had an accident, but they both perceive the outcome very differently. Why is that? Well, perception's not about what happens. It's really about the meaning that is assigned by our brain. Most of us don't realize that we don't consciously choose our perceptions. They're shaped when we're trying to make sense of stress, uncertainty, or pain. And so the question here is can it be retrained? And that's where today's conversation gets really powerful. We're so excited because we have our first guest. Her name's Jessica Cody. She's a licensed professional counselor in Texas and Oklahoma, and she's what's called an MDRIA approved consultant. She specializes in helping clients heal from trauma using EMDR therapy, and that's an evidence-based therapeutic modality. What EMDR typically does is it helps the brain reprocess experiences so that we no longer distort the way we see ourselves, the way we see others, or the way we see the world. She's also the founder of Redeeming Lives Counseling and Consulting, LLC, and she's the author of a new book. It's called Guarding the Counselor's Calling. And we're going to hear more about that at the end of the podcast, and we're also going to let her talk about some upcoming projects. So welcome, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so glad to have you here. So we want to talk about EMDR as a tool to help change our perception. So can you tell us what is EMDR?
Yeah, so EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So you're using eye movement to reprocess stuck events or memories, the stuck emotions that go along with those memories. Whenever you experience something emotionally charged, it gets stuck in your brain, and you begin to think about situations in a way that you feel like it's happening all over again.
Okay, that can be traumatizing, I imagine. So what actually happens in the brain during EMDR?
So during EMDR, you are reprocessing. You first desensitize that emotion so that you're no longer feeling the emotion heightened. It no longer impacts you emotionally. And then we take that negative belief, bring that down to a zero, and then we install a positive belief, something that you would rather believe about yourself.
Okay, great. So basically, we're changing the perception. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so then what I'm hearing you say is that perception isn't fixed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's trainable, right?
That is correct.
All right. Okay, sometimes this happens through daily mental fitness practices, and then sometimes we require deeper work like EMDR, where the brain is holding on to a memory, and so the EMDR helps it to release that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So let's look at some ways that we can use daily mental fitness practices. So at Recalibration Nation, we like to use what we call mantras. These are mental anchors, and they are intentional thoughts that we carry with us. They stabilize our perceptions, and they keep us from going back to old patterns. So the first one I want to talk about is drivers instead of triggers. So most of us are familiar what a trigger is. That is some type of stimulus that we experience, and it's typically negative, and it may be caused by a past trauma or distressing memory. And so then in present time, we experience something that reminds us of that, and then it starts a reaction where we start feeling anxious and stressed and uptight. And so instead of being influenced by triggers, we want to be the driver. We want to be in control of our brain. And so in order to do that, we need to change our perception. We need to be aware of when these triggers are happening, and we need to change how we're going to think about things. And when we're the driver, what we put into our brain is how it reacts. So if I'm somebody that I think negatively, then my brain is typically going to be anxious, and I'm maybe going to feel overstimulated. Whereas if I'm thinking positively, then I may be more calm and able to perform at peak performance. So it's important that we take back control and that we're the driver. So Jessica, do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, so as you're talking, I'm thinking about the different things that I use with my clients. And I use what's called an unhelpful thinking habits worksheet, where it helps clients learn and become aware of those triggers and how they're thinking about things so that they can challenge that thought.
Okay. So awareness is definitely an important step in being the driver. You need to make sure that you're aware of how you're being impacted and that you're able to intervene so you can move forward in the way that you want to. The next mantra is even if versus what if. So what if thinking tends to be negative thinking that is fear-based. Some examples of this are, what if I get in a car wreck? Or what if I'm having health problems? Or what if I don't get that promotion? And so that keeps our thoughts negative and keeps us from living resiliently. Whereas when we use even if thinking is more of a courageous statement where we're overcoming. And so many times with what if thinking, it never happens. It may be unrealistic, but sometimes it does happen. So let's say I'm thinking, what if I'm not well? Well, maybe I'm not. But instead of thinking about it and worrying about it, then I think, well, even if I'm not well, I have insurance, I can go to the doctor, I can get tests done, and the doctor will provide some type of treatment to help me feel better. So I'm pushing forward. Instead of living in fear and worrying, I am doing something about it. I am taking control. It promotes resilience. So what do you think about that?
I can definitely see how that's promoting resilience.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So the third one is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when we're making changes and we're growing, we can feel pressure, and this can be uncomfortable. So it's important to work to stretch our tolerance. And when we do that, then we tend to have less anxiety, less stress, less low mood. What happens when we're intolerant is we're irritable and we're agitated about our environment. And when we're more accommodating and more aware of our environment, then we tend to be able to function better and have less anxiety. So let's say that I have anxiety and I start having heart palpitations. And every time I'm anxious, my heart starts pounding, and then it just starts there, and then I start having other symptoms, and then it just gets out of control to the point where I'm having a panic attack. Well, if I'm stretching my tolerance, then I'm understanding that when I'm anxious, I have heart palpitations, and that's just part of who I am. If I take a second and do something like box breathing, where I breathe in and I blow out, then I can help calm myself down. And I'm understanding that this is part of who I am. This always happens when I'm anxious. It never lasts very long. It usually lasts 5 minutes, and then it subsides, and I can move on. And so once I understand and I perceive what's going on in my environment, then I'm able to stretch my tolerance, and then my anxiety is reduced. So what are your thoughts about that?
So as you were talking, I was thinking about how I teach my clients about avoidance. You know, whenever you experience anxiety, you want to avoid that thing that is causing that anxiety. So I explain that, you know, you want to really go through that and put yourself in those positions so that you can get comfortable with that. And so I think what you're talking about is basically the same thing, and helping them push through and push forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to reinforce these tools. So I want to encourage you to go to recalnation.com, that's our website, and download the perception worksheets that go along with this episode. Those can help you to identify your current lens, to challenge some distorted thinking that you may be having, and to help to retrain your perception this week. And when you do these things, this is where awareness becomes transformation, and that's the goal. Sometimes, though, we may need additional support if you've had a history of trauma or distressing events. Those may be difficult to overcome by yourself. And if that's the case, and particularly if you live in Texas and Oklahoma, we want to encourage you to call Jessica. She can be reached at 432-236-6867, and just give her a call and she can talk you through the steps and get you set up for EMDR. If you're not in Texas or Oklahoma, we have 2 websites that we suggest. The first one is Psychology Today, and you can go onto their site and you can type in your zip code, and then what you want to do is check EMDR, and what it will do is it will bring up those counselors that provide that type of service. I do want to encourage you, if you're going to proceed with EMDR, to look for someone who's certified. This is a specialized therapy, and you have to have additional training for that. And so you want to make sure that someone has gone through the proper steps and has the certification so you can get the best service. The other website is called emdria.org. It's emdria.org. And that's the official EMDR website. And you can go on there, and it has a list of individuals that they too offer EMDR services. Okay, so now we're going to let Jessica talk about her book and any upcoming projects that are going on.
Okay. So I just wrote a book called Guarding the Counselor's Calling, and it is a spiritual warfare guide for Christian therapists who are experiencing spiritual warfare. It does have personal information in there, personal stories of my own that I sprinkled kind of throughout. So you'll get to see that. And then there's also prayers that you can pray, that I also prayed through the difficult times in my life when I was dealing with spiritual warfare. That helped me. And then you asked about upcoming projects. I'm currently writing a book on integrating faith with EMDR therapy for Christian therapists to learn how to do that ethically. And then I have a class coming up integrating faith with EMDR therapy as well.
That sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
I ordered my book and I'm supposed to get it this week. I can't wait. So, well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all the information that you provided about EMDR. It's a great therapeutic modality. I have seen it work on people, and it's just amazing when people come in with trauma and distressing events and then they participate in EMDR, and you can just see that burden being
Yes.
lifted from them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's just like a weight that's gone.
Yep.
So it's very exciting to see people become resilient and be renewed. So
Yes.
I just want to encourage everyone that feels like they may need that to push forward and check that out. So for the next episode, we're going to look at the second pillar of PEMA, and that is energy. So we're going to look at how to protect it, how to restore it, and how to optimize what fuels our life. So we want to keep that fuel going so we're resilient, and that's what we're going to look at next time. So if you're committed to building real resilience, you want to make sure that you subscribe to Recalibration Nation so we can recalibrate together. Until next time, go and live resiliently.
Woke up heavy, heart in chains. Mirror whispers, you're insane. But I won't fold, I won't break. This mind's a map, I'll find the way. The clock resets, the gears align. I'm not my past, I redesign. Recalibration nation. Reset the stars, rewrite the skies. We're more than scars, we're sparks, we shine. Recalibration nation. Recalibration nation. The ground may quake, the walls might sway, but I'm the storm that clears the gray. Thoughts like